Hello and welcome to Artisphere presented by TD Bank, the virtual experience. Thank you for joining this juror panel discussion, which is sponsored by ZWO. Joining me are Andy Gambrell, well-established contemporary painter, and has been a professor at Savannah College of Art and Design, shows work in Hong Kong. Fantastic guy, currently in West Pelzer.
Hi, my name is Andy Gambrell. I am an artist. I have a studio in West Pelzer, South Carolina. That's where I'm from, and I've really enjoyed building a career in the arts, but always wanted to return to upstate South Carolina to help with cultural development. So here in our small town, I have partnered with Mayor Blake Sanders, and I run a small nonprofit gallery called the Grand Gallery. We named it Grand, combining the GR from Greenville and the A&D from Anderson. We see ourselves as a bit of a hub between the two cultural communities. We are on a bit of a hiatus with COVID-19 relating to indoor activities, but we're about maybe putting together things to drive excitement, outdoors. So that's it. So on to the next one.
Jessica Helfrecht, who is executive director at the Mint Gallery in Atlanta.
I'm in Atlanta now, and I'm the interim executive director of Mint, which is a 14-year-old nonprofit, and we promote Atlanta emerging artists. We were started by college students years ago, so I've been with Mint a couple of years, and we are open right now with time tickets with 10 people or less, and have a beautiful show up right now, curated by Sierra King. So we're trying to push through, but COVID's been super tough, but we're open, and our studio artists are in here working, so that's great.
Ashley Jones, fantastic photographer, located in Greenville, South Carolina.
Artist and educator, specialty photography. Also SCAD alum, so a little connection there. Artist and educator, formerly teaching at Anderson University, and now doing curatorial work for the Southeast Center for Photography in Greenville.
And Shosani Elaine Dean, former professor at Anderson University. That's where I met her, actually, through my former coworker, Elise. And also just a really, really fantastic ceramics artist.
I'm in Minnesota now. I was at Anderson University for 5 years. That's how I got to meet wonderful Ashley Jones and also Andy. And just recently relocated to University of Minnesota. So it's a big change, and feel like I'm in an episode of The Outer Limits, starting the semester in a pandemic. The Zoom is everywhere, and I'm just finding myself getting settled in the area, but it's not an unfamiliar area to me. Partnering with the Northern Clay Center, which I've worked with in the past.
I worked there.
Oh, you used to work there?
When I lived in Minnesota, my husband went to graduate school, so I used to work there with Tippy.
Oh, yeah, Tippy's in charge now.
Oh, great. So I just bought some stuff from the Clay Festival, and
the American Clay Festival. Yep.
I am your moderator, Robin Aiken. I am the Visual Arts Programs Manager at the Artisphere Festival. And we've sort of tried to roll with the punches this year. Everybody's kind of going virtual, and we're no exception. We, in lieu of a live festival, wanted to really give artists and people in the art world a forum to discuss and to get together, and also kind of an outlet for our artists who would have been exhibiting in the festival. We're going to be kind of creating an online marketplace for them, and so just really trying to have a placeholder for the festival this year, albeit it won't be what it was, but we've all sort of been in that position lately, I think.
So those are my Minnesota peeps, and so I'm just getting settled in, and but I'm still in Greenville, I guess.
Okay, so we'll start with you. So either Jessica or Chosani, tell us about what you looked for when you during the Artists of the Upstate exhibition. The Artists of the Upstate exhibition, for those of you who don't know, it's a separate juried exhibition for artists in the Upstate in South Carolina that coincides with the Artisphere Festival. So we do something kind of special for our locals where they can, it's mostly emerging artists where they can have, that traffic and that visibility during the weekend of the event. So if you would mind, tell us kind of how you what you look for, what's your process in terms of jurying.
I'll say since this is educational and the people are watching, one thing you should that most people don't think about when you're jurying is sometimes it's easier to eliminate the work by sometimes it's revealed immediately the commitment level of the artist or the approach, so the first thing is to honor that, and specifically in a discipline that's changing a lot, and Ashley can echo this even though she didn't do Artists of the Upstate, but just photography, the difference between having it printed on a digital canvas, looking for the details of how someone approaches material and making sure with going over that with a fine-tooth comb to make those distinctions. And photography is the tricky one, so catching those kinds of things. Same with, painting, looking at, artists who, how do they consider the surface? How rich and deep is the painting? And another thing that was really important was the diversity across the disciplines as well. And also looking for unique content and narrative was something I found came out in the particular group I had selected, the way once I walked through and saw everything to come together, there was like a strong sense of narrative, and color was really important.
Yeah.
In the group I picked. But I'd have to say as a juror, it is about having that detailed eye and following through and picking the best of the best, not necessarily for the content. I don't mean just because it's rendered perfectly, that means it's the better thing, but really honoring the artists in the group, and taking the time to see the quality, and you do, it's a real thing. You have to get rid of the stuff that's not quality. I'm just putting that out there so people know.
I agree completely. I feel like I had to do it all virtually on Cafe. So, I'm going through the images, and exactly, something you can eliminate immediately. And then others I, give a above whatever line grade, so I know I'm going to come back to it. But it's just a process of going through again and again and trying not to fall into my biases and what I like, and looking at technique, like you said, and the quality of it. And especially with photography, I really teetered on a lot of them. Like, have I seen this photograph before? Has the same picture been taken just in a different way or whatever? And so it is very hard to judge photography because it has access to it and can really edit quite better than any in the past. So photography was something, and then again, looking through to make sure we have some jewelry and some ceramics, and hitting all of the mediums was really important too, to show a diversity in the medium. It being blind, I couldn't really put an eye on having diversity of racial stuff, which is good, I guess, but also that's definitely a main focus for us at Mint, is that we always want to have a diverse showing of artists, a diverse board, and all that, and it just wasn't a factor in this process, which I guess neither good, bad, or indifferent, but just a difference from how I usually work here at Mint.
And the other helpful mechanism was having artists who developed websites that also showed a different level of commitment, and you could see a span of the work and get a little more information.
So I didn't have any of that. So it was really interesting just to really have it be blind, which was cool, but
so this was the first year we switched to the Cafe software. So it was, I think before we had done it where we had some like limited information about the artist that was available, and Cafe is like purely blind, and which is more how we do the regular like kind of artist row jurying. But I don't know which one is. I kind of am leaning toward the idea of knowing a little bit more about the artist, especially if we're talking about emerging. I think it is kind of important to see holistically how the artist is kind of handling their career, but yeah, I mean, but then you you open it up, I guess, to personal bias if there is somebody who knows somebody. But I mean, I think that was the original intent, but I think most jurors are pretty good at being objective and diplomatic.
I know for myself, I very much approach it the way I approach helping students, which is, if you kind of look in the mirror as an artist, you have to admit that your work changes over time according to who you are. What you have to express is going to change according to where you are in your life. Young person or anyone to help empower them on their journey as an artist, or if you're looking to jury or select something, I try to look at what someone's intention is, and then did they live up to their intention. So I try my best to empathize with the criteria that they set themselves up for whether they succeed or fail, and then I look at the work to see, did it meet their goal. And something straightforward like a still life or something like that is pretty direct. There's sort of timeless standards you can look at, but if someone's getting into something with content or other things like that, I just try to look, is it authentic to the voice? Is it authentic to the person making that expression? Did they make their best effort to get that across? And so, of course, we look at things like technical competency and professionalism across documenting the work and all those things. But that secondary level for me is, did the person make an authentic human effort to express something, and did they live up to that? And I try my best. Of course, I have personal preference and taste, but I try to table that kind of sets secondary to trying to extend a helping hand, really. Whether you're jurying something to give someone an opportunity, which goes to the point made earlier. If someone doesn't do a good job with their craftsmanship, or maybe they were cavalier with how they photographed the work, or any of those things that appear that they were being a bit frivolous with the opportunity, might mean that this opportunity would be better put in service of someone who took it more seriously. And so I don't think it's heartless at all to set someone aside, maybe give them some positive feedback for how they could do better next time around. But I think certainly the people that make the best effort should be rewarded for that.
I'll say for me, it would be who I surround myself with, and this will segue to Ashley Jones, to go back what I was talking about with photography. It's having professionals in different disciplines that you are having, serious, deep conversations with, and I find that those are opportunities for me to learn, so I can carry those things forward and have an eye that way, and it's, you can never tell when it's you vacillate between objective and subjective. I'm similar to Andy as an educator. I have to meet students where they are. I'm not making like a fiefdom, so I can look across the span that way, but it's having your peers who pour into you so that you can kind of bring their set of eyes and then their mentor sets of eyes that have informed them. So that's how I would, phrase it, and sort of segue to Ashley to expand on that too, because she's a curator. She's always doing.
Yeah, I align similarly with Chisani and Andy about sort of when I'm jurying and when I'm looking at work. Intentionality and artist intention with their work is very important to me. I juried the Artisphere, like the jury, or not the upstate, but the full Artisphere festival.
Yeah, Artisphere, yeah.
Yeah, and one thing that we kept sort of talking about is this is a fine art festival. And I think, someone mentioned previously that everyone's a photographer right now. You know, you have your phone, right? So I'm a photographer. And there's things like that that sort of play into my mind is about intentionality, tools that you're utilizing. But part of the Artisphere juring process that I experienced was being able to hear the bio or the artist statement and hearing what the artist was intending to do, what they were trying to achieve with the work, and sort of listening to that, looking at the work and really evaluating it and seeing if those ideas were aligning. Presentation for me is important, especially when thinking about an applicant will be presenting themselves as part of a festival. So if you're a painter or a ceramicist, being able to appropriately show that work, to me, is important. So if you are photographing your work or documenting it, to be able to do it well, I do think is important. Even if you're not a photographer, maybe picking up some skills on how to edit or how to present that is important. If you are documenting, you know, a project, being able to show that detail or high resolution images is also important, because if you're a juror and you're looking at the work like microscopic, that can really impact how you view it. So if it's a high resolution image, it might be more impactful or show more detail or craft. So I kind of look at a combination of things: intentionality, use of materials, but documentation of work is also important. And that's something that I focus on when I'm teaching in the classroom with my students, because no matter if you're applying to Artisphere or another juried opportunity, it is about professional presentation and being able to show your work on a professional level. So I kind of look at a combination of things. I do also, like Trisani mentioned, look at a lot of different work and align myself with a lot of different artists. So I really enjoy looking at other disciplines and other mediums, and always kind of going back to that intentionality of the artist. What are they trying to communicate? And is that aligning with the work? Have they achieved that?
One thing I want to add is that, you know, what Andy does in the Grand Gallery is making it commonplace for people to come in and hear those stories from a lot of the artists, so that the jurying isn't always about what I selected, but what will that communicate to the audience as well. You know, just with when I did go to one of his events and the artists talk, Andy, you asked very good questions. Okay. And I think that the reason I'm bringing that up for both what he's saying and what Ashley's saying, that's the essential thing to, you know, go between the objective and the subjective. It's asking the right questions about, you know, what you're looking for, you know, mining all the stuff you've acquired knowledge base visually, you know, and thinking about what impact it has on the viewers also, because it's an educational opportunity also.
It's also important to think about time when looking at artists, because we all know there are formulas out there, you know, especially as a teacher. I'm very sensitive to the fact that you can pencil whip a piece of art and you can project what the market wants and you can slap it together and everybody will think you're the darling of the community. But that's a different thing from expressing the human spirit. It's a different thing from having what Kandinsky would call inner necessity. You know, there's something I have to convey. Now I'm going to go on this journey to acquire the skills to convey that thing. And so whether I'm helping a student at a university setting or looking at a show in the community, I try to be mindful of, you know, is this a person who maybe has not cultivated the draftsmanship yet to articulate the visual they want to get across, but maybe who is just living through something that's just rich and should be shared and is part of our cultural heritage. And those are the things you have to balance. And of course, as the foundations guy for SCAD for so many years, I'm rigorous, shall I say, with technical skills. You know, I hold and set the bar, but that doesn't mean I'm heartless, right? You have to be able to hold those impeccable standards, but we can't drink our own punch either. You know, we can't look at the web and say everyone has to draw like Michelangelo all the time or they're no good at all. And that's one of the the things you have to do if you're in a position to empower people is don't set unrealistic standards for them. You know, set the ideal up for them, but recognize that it's okay. We're all on this journey. You know, they've got to kind of set their goals. And that's to your point earlier about looking at artists outside of their portfolio. One of the things I find most valuable is where's that person's, where are they looking? You know, are they looking to make a quick buck, or are they line of something that's a cultural heritage, you know, or an authentic expression or something? And I think those things do matter, or at least to me they matter.
One thing that I really appreciate about Artisphere is that there is an emerging artist category and a local category where there's a mentorship of local artists and sort of helping them build their work, but also introducing them to the festival circuit and how they can potentially have a career. It can be intimidating for young artists to sort of get out there and figure out how do they market themselves, how do they price things, how do they set up a festival, how do they continue to keep this sort of, you know, going. And that's something that was definitely new to me. I had not sat on a jury panel before where there was an emerging. I was really excited about that, especially in the upstate and sort of this triangle in the Southeast. A lot of emerging artists that are making great work and really creative and inventive. And this was a really neat platform to see that there was a group of professionals championing, you know, emerging artists and there to support them. And that was really different for me. Most of the jurying opportunities that I've experienced were, you know, looking at work and selecting sort of the best to show or feature, but there wasn't that component of an emerging category where we're thinking in a greater scale of, okay, this person might be developing their work or developing their voice, and really kind of thinking about what that means to be an inclusive community. And so that's something that I really appreciated, but was significantly different from the other opportunities that I've been a part of.
I think this is probably similar to other festivals, but you guys do a good job. But this is the internship program. I know one of our students did it, and it's very helpful when they find out how much work it is. When they see, like Ashley was saying, when they see the unsexy part of things, you know, putting your work there, weather permitting, you know, plans don't always go the way you want them to. So I think the fact that you open
and
that
you know, something about that, Trisani, that I think is important is a lot of students that I work with, they might be in the painting concentration or ceramics concentration, and they're sort of in this cone of this is all I can do. And something that's really challenging as an educator is getting students to think outside of that bubble, right? You can run a festival, you can do marketing for a festival, that you don't have to just create this particular medium to be in the arts or to have a career in the arts. So some of the students that I've worked with at the senior level are just focused on how do I make a career as a painter? Well, you don't have to just do that. There's a lot of ways to be involved in this industry. And the internship aspect is something that I think introduces students to that bigger realm of the arts community.
I've done a lot, more of my background's with, I guess, educational institutions or government agencies or, you know, private galleries. And what I really enjoy about Artisphere is every time I see a bit of promotional material or something on the website, there's so many people behind the scenes that volunteer their resources, that volunteer their time. And it's important to me, just as an advocate for the arts, it means a lot to me to see so many people and businesses in upstate South Carolina making it possible for artists to connect with an audience, you know, because we forget, you know, we'll talk a lot about artists doing their thing and the importance of viewers, you know, being empathetic to that, but, you know, there's always got to be a facilitator. You know, to your point about jobs with that, there's a huge industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry of, you know, how do you connect culture to cultural consumers, you know, and, you know, whether you're looking at it from a humanistic point of view or from a business point of view, either way, it's a wonderful thing for Greenville and for the upstate that so many people pitch in, to make Artisphere possible. It's nice to see all those silent partners working behind the scenes.
I think since we're kind of leaning in this direction anyway, but and kind of one of the things that we were kind of hoping to achieve with this panel is to help emerging artists. So one of the questions that I had, kind of, I guess, a twofold question is, what are some of the maybe mistakes that you see when people are applying to shows, when artists are applying to shows, and then conversely, what creates a really strong portfolio? What creates a really strong application that makes you pause, that gives you pause, and really makes you need this person's work?
Well, I think it's different, as a nonprofit gallery here, we are trying to show experimental art, a lot of installation art, a lot of art that doesn't normally get shown in retail galleries, which is fantastic. So I feel like with Atlanta, and it might be sure it's the same in Greenville, I feel like artists need to find the right gallery fit for them. There's no reason for you to take up anybody's time if it's just not a good fit. So, and I find that to find that out, you got to show up. You just have to go, well, when we had openings, you have to go to the openings, you have to go to events, you have to check out their shows to see if you're a good fit. So I feel like that's a common mistake of putting your energy into a gallery that's just not going to be a good fit for you.
I think when I look at the portfolios, it's important when I'm wearing a teacher's hat to help a student get outside of their comfort zone and try a lot of things, but I try to get across the message that if you're putting forth an application, that's a time to demonstrate some consistency of your vision. So especially with Artisphere portfolios for younger artists or people who are new to art or people maybe coming from advertising, getting into fine art, think of it as a consistent brand image almost. You want to see top quality work, but I had rather see 5 or 6 images that demonstrate to me that this artist can sustain an expression across enough work to mount an exhibition. And so that I can see if that artist makes work in the future to show alongside someone else I curate them into a show with, I'd like to see that artist show up, and so looking at it with a curator's eye is very different from looking at it from a mentor's eye when pushing someone to make art. And so with Artisphere, sometimes you can tell people want to show their best drawing and their best painting, and that may not be the best way to go if you're trying to get a little bit of wall space to showcase yourself to the community. And so I think consistency, and not all artists are ready for that yet, and so I think that's important too, is someone might be very impressed with Artisphere and might love attending Artisphere, and maybe that's something they know in the back of their mind they want to apply to at some point, but maybe they have to grow into that a little bit. And so I think consistency of production is an important aspect of that.
I think it's the same thing, your peer group, getting together, having people look at things, finding a mentor that was spoken about earlier. And the other thing is you have to keep applying. And we're sounding, very much like we're saying community, but you don't always get feedback. That's also not a guarantee. Other people do have, there's lots of fires, just as much as the artist is looking for opportunity, there are people who are managing and maintaining things. And so it's, you can't feel that you'll always get that feedback. And then the feedback you get isn't just plug and punch into other opportunities as well. So it really goes back to engaging in the community and learning what the language is of that, and watching the shows over a period of time and being okay with rejection, and instead of feeling that it's just like they don't like my work, it's, as everyone has said, is it the right fit? Is it the right place? I wouldn't enter my work at Artisphere because you can't hang it. It just wouldn't work,
I wish you would, actually.
But it wouldn't, I know it wouldn't read the way it needs to be read,
I get it, yeah.
Just by way of, installation.
Yeah.
And the other thing is you have this incredible team of people who install that work in some short turnaround time. I want to install my own work, so there's that aspect to consider as well as you think about spaces and places and what it can take in terms of work and what it can't, and it's also good for the artist to have a discerning eye as well.
No, everyone's made great comments. Thank you all for letting me be part of the conversation. It's nice
Same here. It was great to meet you, Jessica. Ashley, girl, please.
I know.
Girl, please.
I know.
I can't get away from her.
I know.
Not even in Minnesota.
No.
No, that's my homegirl. And Andy, it's always great to see you. That's always a treat.
Absolutely.
And Jessica, I hope I can be in Atlanta and, at some point and we connect and things like that.
Thank you for joining this juror panel discussion at the Artisphere presented by TD Bank virtual experience. We are very happy to have our sponsors WOA for this jury panel. Please take some time and enjoy the rest of the experience. Enjoy the virtual marketplace, the demos, the other panel discussions. We have a lot going on this weekend. So thanks for tuning in.